Ooh, ooh, ooh. The Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a beloved community we choose to be, where art, life, and spirituality connects you and me. Science of mind and spirit, the foundation we teach and live. Love, joy, and belonging are the gifts we have to give. Our consciousness, our being, open at the bottom, open at the top. We're not simply one with God, but we are it itself. It will never stop. SIA, our spiritual center, family and home. It's where we come to practice and remember there is only one life, one mind, one infinite, eternal, self-existent. 'Cause we pause, embodying all that we are. We shine like a glorious star. Our consciousness, our being, open at the bottom, open at the top. We're not simply one with God, but we are it itself. It will never stop. SIA, our spiritual center, family and home. It's where we come to practice and remember there is only one. Spirituality, it's our way of life. We value laughter, truth, and justice. We express artistry as our living practice. So come and join us at SIA. Know you found a community that will love you every day.
Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings, and welcome to January 25th. Our discussion this week: infinite possibilities and sacred kinship. If we were to play a game and I asked you, what do you think these two things have to do with one another? What might you say? What does infinite possibility and sacred kinship, what does that have to do with the other? Don't worry if you're not sure, because that's what we're going to discuss. So imagine for a moment, breathe with me, and imagine a more expansive way of living where there is no such thing as poverty. There's no such thing as suicide. There's no such thing as racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and more, including war. Imagine a more expansive way of living with infinite possibilities and sacred kinship at the helm. Meaning these two things, when operated together, are the very thing that creates a more expansive way of living. So this week, we're going to explore the ideas and the concepts of oneness, allegiance, connection, reciprocity, where we understand and we embody and we live in such a way that demonstrates our awareness that every living, and it's not even just the living things, because keep in mind, the rocks, the earth itself, where every living thing, every expression of everything is truly one. Breathe. So again, this week we are going to find our inspiration with Indigenous wisdom. We are going to also find inspiration from the science of mind. And our question that we jump off with is, what might we create together with the infinite power that we possess? Again, we are reminded that this infinite power can only be activated if and when we learn to trust the universe. To love God and to love our neighbors as ourselves means that we see God in everything, in everyone, in and as one divine unity. Now, I would venture to say that if we really explored this, we would find that there are many people within New Thought that do not demonstrate their love of God or their love of neighbors or their love of themselves, because we are not demonstrating love to this degree. But for the sake of conversation, let's explore. Being a Sesame Street child myself, growing up with it, being greatly impacted by it, the song, "Who Are the People in Your Neighborhood?" has been deeply ingrained within me. So who are the people in your neighborhood? Literally. Who are the people in your neighborhood? 3 houses down, 2 apartments up. Who are the people in your neighborhood? What are their names? What is their ethnicity? Their favorite color, favorite food? Anything at all. How well do you know the people in your neighborhood? Because if we're going to love our neighbors as ourselves, doesn't it benefit us to a certain degree to know them? And granted, I know there are some people we don't really want to know them. Like, we don't want them over for tea or crumpets, we don't want them over for a variety of reasons. And that's fine. But we still can identify that they are our neighbors and a divine expression of God. So when Mr. Rogers says, "Won't you be my neighbor? It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?" It's an invitation into that space, that energy of oneness and love. Are we being neighborly? And what being neighborly means to a certain degree is what it means to be a good Samaritan. Being a good Samaritan and being a neighbor means that we are willing to love and willing to help even strangers, because the stranger is also our neighbor. So let's pause for a history lesson regarding neighbors. Do you know what happened in St. Augustine, Florida, June 18th, 1964, 2 years before I was born? Do you know what happened? Any idea? Any history buffs out there who know? St. Augustine is a beautiful place, by the way, just side note. It's where I drank from the fountain of youth. There's fountain of, anyhow, we can chat about that if you're ever curious, but it's true story. I went there to film. I was an actor in an independent film. I was a millionaire superhero, sort of like Batman, but not Batman. And yeah, St. Augustine, beautiful city, beautiful town, beautiful place. But what happened there? Here's a hint. It involves this motor lodge. Any clues? Any hints? Any ideas? Any guesses? Okay. It involves this even more so. So at a moment where there were some desegregationists who went to this motor lodge in St. Augustine, Florida, in an attempt to segregate it, they were met with great opposition, including from this gentleman. Do you know him? This gentleman, we'll talk about him in a moment, but this gentleman provided some interesting ways to deal with desegregationists, much like this gentleman who's jumping into the swimming pool. This gentleman jumping into the swimming pool happens to be a plainclothes police officer by the name of James Hewitt. He jumped in the pool to arrest the swimmers, both the African American ones and the white ones, who were there to segregate the pool, because it was coloreds can't swim in this pool. No. So a group of people showed up, as they tended to do in this era of civil rights, to demand equity and justice for all. And so they were met with police officers. And back to this gentleman that I mentioned, this gentleman was the manager of this hotel, Mr. James Brock, who, as we see here, is shoving one of the white desegregationists towards an officer so that they could arrest them, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't stop there. This gentleman, James Brock, also went to the swimming pool itself to do this. You know what he's doing? Any guesses what he's doing? What is he pouring into the pool? Hotel manager James Brock decided to dump acid into the water. He was trying to disrupt the swimmers who were protesting a whites-only policy. So he chose to pour acid into the pool. Now, why do I bring this history to the forefront for today as it relates to our conversation? Because we're going to revisit Mr. Fred Rogers in a moment. But when we wonder, we loosen the cords that restrain our love. When we enter into a space of wonder, into a space of awe, into a space of beauty, into a space of possibility, the cords that restrain our love are loosened. And then the people who are most in love with whatever it is, they are more prone to become the fiercest protectors of. So when we love each other, we protect each other. When we love the earth, we protect the earth. When we love justice and equity, we protect it fiercely. We protect it fiercely. So when a certain individual is pouring acid because of their racism, Fred Rogers, being the avatar that he is, combats racism by having Officer Francois Clemens put his feet into a kiddie pool with Fred Rogers. Fred Rogers was demonstrating what it looks like to desegregate a swimming pool. He was combating racism on a children's television show at a time, 1969. Now, 3 years after I was born. So we've gone from 2 years before, right? At a time when Black people were still prevented from swimming alongside, swimming in the same pool with their white counterparts, Mr. Rogers invited Officer Clemens to join him on this hot day that they may cool their feet in the pool, thereby breaking a well-known color barrier. Afterwards, they dried their feet with the same towel. Quite a demonstration, quite a powerful act of unity and love. Now, the one thing in retrospect that it would have been great if Fred Rogers was able to also cross another barrier as it related to Francois Clemens, the gentleman, being a Black gay man, if that was another barrier that could have been, but for various reasons, that was not his to do. But nonetheless, he did what he could to loosen the cords, to step into infinite possibilities based upon kinship, based upon, won't you be my neighbor? Howdy, neighbor. Years ago, I recognized my kinship with all living things. And I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. I said then, and I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. While there is a soul in prison, I am not free. And you've heard me, if you've ever been here for any number or length of time, you've heard me reference Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, "None of us are free until all of us are free." To which Eugene V. Debs is saying, in essence, the same thing. Recognizing I am them and they are me. No, I am not my brother's keeper, nor am I my sister's keeper, nor am I my non-gender conforming siblings' keeper. I am them and they are me. I am the polar bears on shifting and melting ice caps. I am the hungry children terrified in Gaza. I am the children, the adults in the Ukraine seeking refuge. I am the children being forced to mine ore so that we have technology. I am them and they are me. That's what true kinship means, because it recognizes that we are all one. So when we ask the question, who is my neighbor? Remember, Dr. Holmes said, to love God and to love our neighbors as ourselves means to see God in everything and everyone as one divine unity. So in that vein, keeping in mind that this is in essence a rephrase of the passage in the Bible that says, love thy neighbors, where Jesus said, love your neighbors as yourself. This is the second greatest commandment after loving God. We are to treat others with the same care that we show ourselves, the same kindness that we show ourselves, the same compassion that we show ourselves. Now, this beckons the question, do I care for myself? Am I kind to myself? Am I compassionate towards myself? First and foremost, I have to answer that. Because if I'm not that to me, then it's far more difficult, if not impossible, for me to do that with you. I cannot extend love beyond to friends or anyone else if I do not have such a love in and of and for myself. So, who is my neighbor? We could look at it figuratively, we could look at it literally, but basically the definition of neighbor is someone, somehow, some way we are connected with, we are bordering, we are nearby, or we are contiguous with someone else or something else. Connecting, bordering, nearby, contiguous with. Keep that in mind. Because as you look at this map and you see these various lines that were constructed by man, regardless of these borders, are we not still connecting with one another, bordering, nearby, and contiguous with one another, regardless of these lines? Because if we are driving and there is no sign that says, "Welcome to Pennsylvania," how do you know you're now in Pennsylvania? There's no huge line across that says, Pennsylvania. It's a man-made construct. Same thing for this map. Various continents divided by and lines and structures, but is it not the same thing? So regardless of these borders that make countries, regardless of the borders that establish continents, because a continent is connected to the water and the water is connected to another continent, which is how we can set sail from one place to another. They're connected.
regardless of these borders, are we not connected? We can fly. There's no border in the where the plane goes and the plane has to stop and hover and wait for a door to open and then fly. The sky is open. We simply go from one airport, phew, and land in Japan. Because we are all connected. So regardless of the lines, regardless of the borders, are we not connected? Are we not nearby? Are we not so regardless of the borders, regardless of the ways we see separation, regardless of all of that, we are still connected. It is still possible to move from one space to another, no matter where that space is. There's only one life. That life is God. That life is my life now, your life now, the only life now. So who are our neighbors? Everything and everyone. I don't live in Russia, but they're my neighbors. I don't live in the Congo, in Sudan, in Zimbabwe. They're my neighbors. I don't live in Israel or Palestine. They're my neighbors. What happens to any of them is happening to me. It is affecting me in the same way that when there was a 3 Mile Island incident, when the reactor in Fukushima, I think it's Fukushima, had an incident, it affected the waters and people were concerned. Well, is the water going to reach and affect it? Because we're all connected. We cannot escape it. So why not embrace it? Science can be a way of forming intimacy and respect with other species that is rivaled only by the observation of traditional knowledge holders. It can be a path to kinship. So we can use science as a way, or the science of mind as a way of creating deeper intimacy and deeper respect for all and with all other species. That includes a form of intimacy and respect for the bugs that Tracy doesn't like. Tracy doesn't like bugs, but she can have a type of respect. She can recognize that it's still oneness. Doesn't mean I'm going to put a spider in my hand and be like, oh, hello, Charlotte. Come on. Just don't crawl in my ear. Doesn't mean Tracy's going to do that, because I know Tracy's right now like, but Tracy can recognize that spider over there that I'm not going near is still an expression of God. It is still part of this oneness, part of this kinship. Science, as Neil deGrasse Tyson reminds us, same thing. It is a path to recognizing our kinship, because we are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically. We are all connected. So we're invited to foster kinship over skinship, which skinship could be interpreted as, I don't value these trees in the Amazon. I value money. So I'm going to demolish and cut down all of these trees, knowing how it affects the landscape and life and habitats. I don't care. I want money. Skinship. I am deeming these trees as less important, less significant. You say those elephants are getting ready to go extinct? So what? I don't care. I don't like elephants anyway. I'm deeming them less important. Skinship is simply a way of othering. So rather than othering, we are invited to foster belonging. Kinship begins when we stop deciding who belongs and start living as though everyone already belongs. Just saying. Everyone belongs. But why, Ray? Why would you say everyone belongs when, because there's only one. Everyone who is here belongs here. And belonging simply means recognizing this oneness. Belonging doesn't necessarily, because I know people try to do these mental gymnastics and say things like, because I hear these arguments. Men do not belong in the women's restroom. Men do not belong in women's sports. And that's their way of saying that transgender women are men. But they're using that word. They don't belong there. But they're using this gendered, this transphobic, they're using dog whistles to trigger. Because no, men don't belong in the women's restroom, but transgender women do. Transgender women do belong in women's sports. I, as a 59-year-old man, do not belong in kindergarten as a student. That's not my place. But as a human, most certainly I belong. So keeping in mind, because we use these words, linguistic convenience, when we are talking about kinship and belonging, we are saying that everyone has a right to freedom and liberty, emancipation, health, and well-being. So how are we ensuring? Because when we truly do this, there will no longer be a need, because there will no longer be a consciousness for it, white supremacy, sexism. That paradigm of belief and thought will fade into the nothingness, because every human being will understand we are all connected. We are all part of the oneness. And we can call it by many names, but nonetheless, it's all there is. There's only one humanity in all of us, regardless of shade of skin, religious affiliation, political affiliation. We are all still humans. We are all still beings who are born, who live, and who die in this form. So rather than deciding you don't belong, let's really anchor into what it means to belong. Which brings me to the paralyzing paradox of all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Is that a phrase you've heard before? And if you look at the two individuals at the bottom and see who it's referencing, two individuals of the Supreme Court. What does this phrase, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, what does it have to do with these two individuals? Well, one, this phrase actually comes from this individual. Do you know who that is? By any chance? I'm giving you a chance to guess in case you might. Okay, nonetheless. Not all skin folk are kinfolk means that people who share the same racial or ethnic background, skin folk, are not automatically family or allies, kinfolk. And shared identity doesn't guarantee shared values or support, as some individuals may work against their own group for personal gain or to align themselves with the oppressive systems. This is a concept that was highlighted by Zora Neale Hurston's famous quote, "All skin folk ain't kinfolk." Now, why am I mentioning this? Because this sounds like othering. I'm mentioning this because if there is a group of people who are working against their own interest by siding with the colonizer, there's a consciousness that they are operating based upon. And if we are going to create infinite possibilities and what it means to create a world that works for all, it would benefit us to understand that consciousness so that we can address it and heal it, thereby remixing this phrase so that it says at one time, skin folk not, but now all skin folk, regardless of species, shape, form, color, gender, regardless of all of that, they are all kinfolk. In the same way that in Starfleet, I'm going to Star Trek now, in Starfleet, in the Federation of Planets, it's all kind of aliens. Mr. Spock is a Vulcan. Worf is a Klingon. Data is an android. It's all kind of different folks roaming around here. What are you? What are you? But nonetheless, they are all kinfolk, regardless of their skin, their scales, their fur, regardless of all of that. They are kinfolk because they are allies, they are friends, they are family. They are of one united community. So our invitation is when we identify, yeah, they're not kinfolk. Those skin folk ain't kinfolk. Those LGBTQ people are voting in ways that are harming the LGBTQ community. Same thing those Puerto Ricans are doing. They're voting against. Same thing those, they're voting against. The Somalis, why are y'all voting against? How are we understanding their consciousness that is causing them to do that so we can address it and heal it? The inhabitants of the earth are bound to each other, bound by the ties and the obligations of a common kinship. Breathe. The inhabitants of the earth. Who and what inhabits the earth? All of the animals, all of the trees, bushes, grass, all of the habitats, all of the sand, all of the water. The inhabitants of the earth are bound to each other by the ties and the obligations of a common kinship. Man is simply one of a series of sentient beings, differing in degree, but not in kind, from the beings who are below, above, and all around him. To what degree are we recognizing that connection that ties us to one another and to all things? Whether we look at the ties and obligations as spiritual ties and obligations, there is only one power and one presence. There is only God. There is only spirit. And therefore, that oneness clearly connects us all. Or we look at it once again, as Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed out. We are bound to each other chemically, biologically, atomically. And there is no getting around that. Integrating the lesson of the sweetgrass story, we are invited into active co-creation with all of life. Science of Mind teaches that our creative power extends beyond personal, what I want, personal manifestation. We are called to respectfully partner with the natural world, recognizing our shared divinity and our interconnectedness with all that is. Once again, as I said last week, we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family. Regardless, so the trees are our cousins, the polar bears are nieces, nephews, and nibblings, and just we are all connected. So how do we honor, how do we recognize, how do we celebrate our kinship with all expressions of God? How do we mindfully make choices? How do we engage in spiritual practices that truly help create a world that works for all? There was a time where things did not exist. Then they became theories and possibilities. I believe I can create an aeroplane, a flying machine. Aeroplane is not even a word in my lexicon yet. A flying machine. You gonna make what? I'm going to create a flying machine so that man can fly through the air like birds. You stupid. Watch me. What is now proved at one time was simply imagined. People imagined the medical advances that we have today, the scientific advances we have today, the technological advances. Started off as an imagined idea. To what degree are we imagining a world that works for all in order to have that also proved? The limits of the possible can only be defined by going beyond them into the impossible. So when people say things like war, getting rid of war is impossible. Man will always fight man. Are you willing to push beyond are you willing to go there? So rather than stopping at, are you willing to go beyond? Are you willing to change the frame of reference in the same way that we say, okay, in this word impossible, well, erase the I am. What's left? Possible. And some people say, well, I'm going to keep the I am, but I'm going to change it to I'm possible. Cool. And some people change it even more to I am possible. They take the little thing out and expand the contraction so it's a full word. Cool. But even when we get there, I am that which I am. Which a more accurate translation, I am that, the all that is, as it ever becomes more of itself as me. See, the moment we accept, that's impossible. Peace on earth, impossible. Universal health care for all, impossible. Getting rid of poverty, impossible. Ending gun violence, impossible. Every time we say such things as this, what are we doing? We are limiting God. We are saying that the infinite power and presence Sort of like in The Wizard of Oz, when Glinda told the Wicked Witch, "You have no power here." In essence, we are saying the same thing to the divine and as the divine. God has no power here. God as me has no power. God as you has no power. I am limiting rather than God is all there is. It has no limits, to such a degree that even to say has no limits, like that's like God is everywhere, to the degree that where it's an insignificant word. Like it doesn't even convey, because there has to be a somewhere for there to be a where. But if God is all there is, then there is no where when it relates to that which is everywhere. So stop limiting the infinite power and presence as it shows up as you and anyone else. God, source, spirit, the divine, love, life has no limits. Our thought of anything creates a spiritual prototype of that thing. This ties into cause and effect, as we said last week. So if we are desiring to step into infinite possibilities through relationship and kinship, are we creating the spiritual prototype of that thing? Are we creating the spiritual prototype of a world that works for all? Last week we said Jesus communed with the divine presence and definitively, absolutely used divine power. And he taught that we must first become acquainted with the presence. Once again, if I'm limiting God, then clearly I am not acquainted with the presence, not as the absolute or as the relative, subjective me, because I'm limiting it. That shows a lack of awareness of it, a lack of intimacy as it relates to it. So to what degree am I willing to truly become acquainted with this infinite power and presence? As we reconnect with this core tenet of science of mind and spirit, we are invited and encouraged to remember that we are incredibly powerful beings, and that power is multiplied as we come together. Think of a choir. First, there's a soloist, right? Singing. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But now it's a duet. The voices are stronger. It's a trio. It's a quartet. It's an ensemble. It's a choir. It's an orchestra of voices. That power is multiplied as we come together. For as it says in Matthew 18:20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. The remix, where 2 or more are gathered in the nature of the I am that which is the all that is, ever expressing more and more of itself as me. When 2 and more are gathered in the nature of that, it must show up as them. And remember from Margaret Mead, we get, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens, never doubt that they can change the world, because for truly, indeed, they, small groups of these committed individuals, they have been truly the only ones who ever have made such changes. Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 is our call to gather in and to gather as transformative community, and to do what is ours to do to manifest a world that works for all. Breathe. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to repeat it with me the second time. I create and co-create powerfully for the good of all, because I am creation itself, incarnating in, through, and as me. Together. I create and co-create powerfully for the good of all, because I am creation itself, incarnating in, through, and as me. And so it is. Everything is practice. So this week, for your Thursday night study group questions or your own personal journal questions, who are my neighbors, literally and figuratively? Who are the people in my neighborhood? How am I connected to them? What does it mean for me to love my neighbor as I love myself? To what degree do I love myself? What is the evidence? He asking for evidence. I know. He said, what's the evidence? I don't know. Siri, what is the evidence that I love myself? She said, check back later. Number 3, how have borders and boundaries been used in non-life affirming ways? What could we do to shift this paradigm? Number 4, in what ways do I limit God? In other words, in what ways do I limit myself and place limitations on other incarnations, family, friends, etc.? Number 5, in what ways could I build, strengthen, and heal the relationships in my life? And lastly, without trying to be all kumbaya, who are my kinfolk and why are they my kinfolk? Breathe. Continuing with our practice, this week you are invited to have a conversation about what we might create together with the infinite power that we possess. What needs to be released and what needs to be embodied? Breathe. As I breathe from the end, the amen, the and so it is. I breathe with joy and gratitude, knowing that this word is creative because all word is creative. All thought is creative. As soon as there is a thought, there is a spiritual prototype of. There is an image, an idea, a concept, a belief, a something, a cause that is seeking to become an effect. And the more I invest, the more I think on it, speak on it, feel, invest, and act, the more that prototype manifests into and as reality. That's a demonstration of how powerful we are, because everything that we have, from phones to light bulbs to automobiles and airplanes, shirts, pants, and shoes, cereal, grits, butter, cake, and so much more, all originated as an idea in someone's mind. It all originated as an imagined concept, a spiritual prototype that was given the space to grow, a cause that became effect, a formlessness that became form. And so I breathe, recognizing that is the exact same power that I, and when I say I, it is the I that we all are, that I possess. And that when I gather with other like-minded individuals, we compound and multiply this power. Just as we multiply our strength, I try to lift a car by myself, but when 15 of us now gather and lift, the car moves. We gather and we think together, we speak together, we vision together, we pray together, we feel together, we act together. And as a result, a world that works for all. And so I breathe in this joy and this gratitude, knowing that this is already, the prototype already exists. The growing is already occurring. And so I continue to do what is mine to do, to bring the formless into form, the word into flesh, the prayer into manifestation. And so I join in infinite possibilities with all who are my kinfolk. And I breathe, recognizing that this prayer is already done. My life is my amen. And so it is. And so it is. Breathe. Yes, you are worthy. You are loved. You are awesome. You are appreciated. Now go out and live like you know this. Have fun. Be joyful. Be grateful. Love yourself. And I will see you soon. You said what? Next week is February.